Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Creative Content. You could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with me, and I appreciate that. I've got another quick and dirty episode for you. Why? Because I'm trying to take over the internet, y'all. I'm going to be honest. Recently, I've had quite a few epiphanies of sorts, and I think that there's something really beautiful about this. So I took some notes. I want to talk to you about it. I think because over the last year, things have been uncomfortable, to say the least. I've been trying things, experimenting, trying this YouTube channel. Nothing's quite clicked. I started up this recent business idea lately that was about digital storytelling. I thought it could be really cool. And so I made a bunch of kind of example videos and pitched them to companies like Gymshark, Lululemon, Roan, Whoop, all these different companies. And I heard back approximately 0 responses. And I was like, I thought these really kicked ass. I don't know what's going on. I was like sending them to them on like DM. I'd send them an email, personal pitch, the whole thing. Create, cool content that I thought they could potentially use. And then I listened to this podcast with Andrew Tate's video editor. And I really feel like Andrew Tate, that's not the point. The point is, he was talking about how he got a hold of his clients, some of the big people he worked with. And he was talking about how, yes, he'd do the personal video pitch, but then he would also, there's one guy, I forget who his name was, do you want to work with him? And he's like, I sent the pitch to honestly everyone on his team. He was like, I found out who his driver was and then sent the pitch video to his driver's kid. And I realized, I was like, oh, I thought I was hustling because I made this content and sent like 2 DMs to the company. And I was like, oh, I'm tripping. Like, I'm slacking. Like, to really do this thing, like, you got to go. Like, you got to go. And that was super helpful for me, thinking about what do I want to spend my time doing. And so I kind of had a change of plans where I think the idea is great in terms of that as a freelance offer. But I realized this is nothing new or significant. But I was like, what if I had a bigger online presence, I could spend less time pitching, right? And that's a way that you can kind of create inbound for you. It's like, who would have thought, right? This is pretty obvious, you think. But I realized that there are some channels, because I'm so anti-social media. I want to say anti-social media, but I don't like to be on it. I don't spend a lot of time on it. I love YouTube. But my YouTube channel, it's been like crawling. It's not even crawling. It's like barely like snail pace growing. But I really enjoy it. I enjoy making the content for social media, even though I don't love consuming the content on there. And there's this one guy in particular. His name's Cal Newport. He's like one of my favorite thinkers, authors. And he has this idea that he talks about, which he actually got from Steve Martin. Steve Martin had this autobiography, maybe memoir, called So Good They Can't Ignore You. Or that might have been the title. That might be the title, but at least, even if the title, it was his lines. Not Steve Irwin. I think that's a crocodile hunter. Is that Steve Irwin? No, this is Steve Martin. So we're switching crocodiles for comedy. What he said, be so good they can't ignore you. And I've really believed in that for a lot of my projects, a lot of the work I've been doing, whether it's for music, whether it was for the beat school. I've always been like, how can I get in the noise, focus on quality, make this as good as possible? And if it is, like, if you build it, they will come sort of a thing. Like, focus on the long term. Don't worry about social media. Focus on what's under control. Make it incredible. And I realized I love this idea. And that I've kind of been indoctrinated with it. And at the same time, because I love the idea and it affirms what I already believe, which is kind of like social media is kind of bad, like spend time off of it and focus on the craft, is that I never really took it seriously because it always felt like kind of the enemy to what I wanted to do, which is like be mindful and be in the moment and et cetera, being hippy dippy white boy shit. But there was this podcast I heard recently with Tim Ferriss, and he was talking about, he's like, what if for 24 hours, you just did the opposite of what you normally do? He's like, okay, what you're doing, if it's working, like, what if you just did the opposite? And so I started thinking, I was like, I started listening to some podcasts with these like solopreneur guys who built their companies on Twitter and LinkedIn. And I was like, what if I switch my perspective on these things? What if I've been so indoctrinated with like the social media is bad that I haven't really ever tried it or given it a fair shot? And I was like, what if I actually went all out and really tried to do this? Because I'm having this realization of sorts, listening to a lot of Alex Hormozy and thinking about leverage. Again, kind of what are skills? What are my real superpowers here? And when I think about these superpowers, they often manifest more in things like audio engineering or script writing, things of that nature. They're almost like hard skills. But I honestly think one of my superpowers is my discipline and consistency. I've never been the best at anything, but one thing that I'd say that and identify with this that I feel like I normally can do really well is with volume. Is like same with beats and stuff, like song a day. Like that's always kind of been my approach. Is like I'm not a Frank Ocean. Like I have the touch of God, and I'll release one album every like 7 years. I'm making a song a day, if not two, because I shoot shots. Like that's my superpower. Is I'm not afraid to make stuff and release it. And I'm like a quality by volume kind of guy. And here I was trying to adapt this philosophy of quality over quantity. And so it really got me thinking about this. Like if I've never been so good that even with the music, whatever, that I like couldn't be ignored, that maybe my strategy isn't to double down on the thing itself, but maybe the skill of production is the leverage. And whatever that manifests as is almost irrelevant. That almost I've been pulling on like the wrong leverage lever, thinking about it more in terms of like what the hard skill is compared to thinking of these other things of like patience and discipline, like thinking of those as hard skills. Whereas like if I stack those, I feel like I might actually have a shot. And so I've been doing the opposite. So I've been thinking, I'm like, what would it take to get a big like Twitter following, or like what about posting more on LinkedIn? Like I really want to be a writer. And so when I think about what does that life look like, I'm like, I love the idea of no social media. That's like my dream. And that's what I've been doing for a long time. Obviously it hasn't really been working, but I'm like, if no matter what I want to sell, if I want to be a writer, whether it's a book, whether it's a course, if I want people to see or hear or get my stuff, I have to have an audience. And so I think I've been ignoring some of these platforms intentionally because, right, it's about focus and just dial on one and don't spread yourself too thin, etc. But I'm wondering, like, what if I just went and focused my energy rather on like 4 hours a day pitching on just like making content? And it was like writing, like learning how to write on Twitter, learning how to write on LinkedIn, right? Learning how to build digital, I guess, I don't want to say followers, but I guess kind of building out on social media in a different way. We're like building out the Beat School online. I know how to build digitally in some regards, in terms of like email marketing and funnels and landing pages and blah, 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 and copywriting. But like, I'm not versed in like, how do you write a good tweet, right? Because I've never been on there or anything. And so I'm trying it. I'm like, I bet, because I love video. I'm like, this is kind of my natural space, is I want to do video. And so like, what if I just like 10x my video content? Like it's like we do one YouTube video a week, but then what if I made like 10 shorts a week and then also was like tweeting and posting every day on LinkedIn, like just really focused on it, and not in a way that's just like throwing a ton of shit out there in a way, but also being really diligent about like, how do you write a good LinkedIn post or any of these things? And so I took a course. I bought a course. It was like 2 hours, cruised through it. And it was about like how to create like this content marketing system, mostly for writing, digital writing. And it's kind of tripping me out how much I've loved writing, especially finding out in the last year how much I love writing, and that I've been ignoring the biggest platforms that are kind of built for idea sharing and writing. That like what I love to do is to share ideas, right? This is kind of my special sauce, is like I listen to a lot of podcasts, I listen, watch videos and read books. Like I just like ideas, I like engaging in ideas, having conversations about ideas. And some of the biggest idea sharing platforms are the ones that I've been, I'd say, turning my nose up a little bit to. And so I finally decided maybe a couple of days ago I was like, let's go for it. Give it 30 days, see where it goes. And if nothing else, it's a good, like any experiment, it's a good reason to learn a new skill. And for some reason, I never approached online digital writing like a skill, like any other skill, where I gave myself the kind of space to be shitty and be a beginner and then eventually level up. I never saw it like that. And as soon as that switch flipped in my mind, I got excited about it. And I was like, I bet I could do this. Like, give me time. Like, I'm going to suck. But I was like, I love to write. Like, that's actually, if I want to spend my day, like in the morning, that's how I like to spend my time, whether it's writing short stories. And then if I could build an audience who actually like to read my writing, whether it's a newsletter or the step, then the one big project, I have two kind of writing things that I'm working on that are exciting. One is a sort of collection of short stories, which I told you about before. But the other one is, I have this buddy who he's pretty much from the same projects as Jay-Z. There's like the Marcy projects where Jay-Z's from. And then there's the Tompkins projects. They're kind of like across the street, for lack of a better term. And I met him when I worked at Reconnect in Brooklyn. Cool dude, like from the hood, but super kind, big heart, but like knows street shit really well. And he was like this basketball star, and then ended up a charge around drugs, ended up catching up with him, and then he got out. And now he's like, he works with youth and does like positive stuff. And we've kept in touch. He's the man. We talk about boxing, UFC, and life and wealth and just ideas. He's just such a cool dude. And I was like, I want to write his biography. I was like, that's a project that sounds. But I'm like, what inspires me? Like, what gets me like really excited? It's thinking about like spending a couple weeks in New York, interviewing family, like people in like the community he grew up with, interviewing him, and like writing his biography. I was like, that gets me excited. But when I play it out, even if I knock that thing socks off, it's like, who's going to buy it? Like, nobody gives a fuck. And so I was like, okay. So the fact that I have these other ideas, these goals, I think projects like that I want to work towards makes something like building a Twitter following, building an audience online more exciting, because it gives me a feel like I have something to build towards rather than some sort of ego trip internally, which of course, I was trying to be a rapper. Of course, I want attention on the work I'm doing. That's, you know, I'm a black hole of ambition and need. That's not a secret. But more than just trying to build for money or like build like for growth's sake, that being like, okay, I'm building this thing so that I actually have people who are genuinely interested in what I do. And then it doesn't even count as selling, really. It's like, and then you just make stuff that they enjoy. That's what I was doing with the Beat School, right? It's like you get an audience of people who are into things, then you just build cool stuff. I was like, that actually sounds really rad. And so I wanted to keep this podcast relatively short because there's a lot that I'm like trying to take over the internet. And so it's like a big task, but it's one that like I've been really having trouble sleeping the last 2 nights because I've been so excited about it, of like learning these new skills. Like anything, I'm approaching it like any other sort of skill that you can learn. And for some reason, it's this approach that to me has given it like an exciting adventure rather than this sort of like strange thing that feels like I feel like I'm on this kind of like endless content hamster wheel. And it's kind of, which I've always been like scared of jumping in because I know I'm like, now I have to do this forever. But thinking about if I can come up with systems, then I can write, create in the morning, schedule things out, like still shoot my videos and actually maybe have it reach some folks, which would be really cool. And hopefully make some good coin along the way, selling these digital products that I could fund my own indie projects that aren't going to pay an arm and a leg, because writing grants, trying to get grant money, like trying to get $3,000 for one of these things is like pulling teeth. I was looking at some grants, going to apply for some stuff, and I was like, yeah, we should put this time into like building a better online business, making a lot more money, and then finding ways to systematize it so I have actual time, like creating time freedom, being really intentional about how I build it, and then taking that funding it my damn self, and then going and like doing these projects I want to work on. So thinking about this biography or this collection of short stories, these like things I want to write and create and release, it makes it actually kind of an exciting journey. So I say all that to say, you're going to be seeing a lot more of me. You're going to be seeing me fall on my face You're going to be seeing me trying a bunch of different formats, writing a bunch, new videos, failing often, hopefully quickly, and then hopefully figuring this shit out along the way. And finally, I think locking into something that I think might have some legs if I can pull it off. But I think it'll tie with the digital storytelling, and I'm excited about it. So, gonna keep this short and sweet. I got a lot of work to do. I got landing pages to build, lead magnets to make, content to shoot, tweets to write. It's the first time I've ever really been on Twitter in a long time, maybe ever. And so it's kind of weird, but I'm excited about it and to see where it goes. Thanks for tuning in as always, even for these quick and dirty pods. Appreciate y'all. Peace.